Hey guys, welcome back. Bushcraft family here with another video. And today we are going to we're talking about floods. It's in the news. A lot of people are living through this. Um, I'm not going to say anything too drastic because there are people that won't survive through the floods, so to speak. Um, but I thought it's important to kind of break down what it would be like to live through a flood. And I'm just going for the first 7 days. It goes on much longer than this, but and how to prepare for something like this. And yeah, it can be scary. If you've ever lived through that. Um, and sometimes we get complacent, and you know it's happened before. What's the odds of it happening to me again, or maybe it would be worse, you know? So imagine it's been raining for 3 days straight. At first, you don't think much about it. You've seen heavy rain before. You've seen the creek rise up before. You've even seen water covering some of the roads. Then your phone goes off. You get that flash flood warning. A few hours later, then, oop, there goes another one. The river is rising faster than expected. Roads are now becoming closed. Then somebody tells you they are evacuating people on the other side of town. You look outside and you realize the water is getting closer. Now you've got a major decision to make. Do you stay? Do you leave? What do you grab? Because once the floodwaters start moving, your normal life can change really, really fast. Today, we're going to walk through what it could be like to live through a major flood in just 7 days. And more important, how do you prepare before the water starts popping up around your ankles? Okay, flood survival actually starts before day one. Heavy rainfall has been falling upstream, creeks are rising, the ground is already saturated, weather alerts become more serious. This is when you need to start paying attention. Don't just look at what's happening outside your window. A river can rise because of rain that falls miles and miles away. Nowadays, we have dams and levees that you just don't know what's going on upstream, so to speak. And flash flooding can happen extremely, extremely fast. So before we even begin our 7 day scenario, so to speak, there's a few things you should already know. Know whether you live in or near a flood prone area. If you live way up in the mountains or something, flooding may not be a major issue, but there is other things to worry about. Flash flooding or mudslides and stuff like that. But we're talking about the flooding today. Know several ways out of your neighborhood. Know where the higher ground is. Keep your vehicle fueled. I always say that half a tank of gas is empty. That gets put that in your mindset that whenever your tank is half empty, it is empty, so that you're always putting gas in. Because once that thing gets empty, it's not, going to the gas station and filling up you might not be able to do that. Have an emergency supplies already ready to go. And most importantly, don't wait until water is coming through your front yard to make your plants, or your front door, so to speak. That's even worse. Okay, day one, water starts rising. It's early in the morning. The rain hasn't stopped. You check outside. The ditch is full. The creek that normally looks harmless is moving really fast. Then you start seeing pictures online. Roads are underwater. Cars are stalled out in it. The basements are flooding. Emergency crews responding to calls. And suddenly, this isn't something happening somewhere else. It's happening where you live. Your first instinct might be to stay home. After all, everything you own is right there, But here's something you've got to remember. Your house can be replaced. Your furniture, all that stuff is just objects. But you and your family can't not be replaced. If authorities tell you to evacuate, take that seriously. Don't wait until every road around you is underwater, and never attempt to drive through floodwater. You don't necessarily know whether the road is still under the water. It may have been washed away, You can't see under the water. And if there's not somebody driving through, you don't know what's under there. The current can be way stronger than it looks, especially underneath what you see. If you're evacuating, grab your go bags, take medication, your identification and important documents, phones and chargers, food and water, clothing, pet supplies, cash, flashlights, and whatever emergency equipment you need. If you've got time, unplug electrical equipment and move valuable items higher, but don't spend so much time protecting your stuff that you trapped yourself. Here's a good question. If somebody knocked on your door right now and told you that you had 10 minutes to evacuate because of flooding, would you be ready? And I mean, getting all the important stuff out, like your important papers, your prescriptions, prescription glasses, pets, pet foods, your go bags, which everybody should have, we're talking about that. All the stuff that you need to survive and to get past this. Okay, it's nighttime. Nighttime can be scary, especially in flood times. Now imagine you decide to stay because the water wasn't that bad. it's dark, the rain gets heavier, then the power goes out. No lights, no internet. Cell service starts getting overloaded. Um, Certain times like this, when everybody's calling 911, there isn't that many people uh, there to answer those calls. So you're on hold, or you get transferred to another area, which can be even more devastating. You hear sirens in the distance. You shine your flashlight outside. The water, ooh, that water that was across the road earlier is now in your yard. This is where people can get themselves into serious trouble. Nighttime flooding is especially dangerous because you can't clearly see what the water is doing. This is why every household should have battery powered lighting, uh, a weather radio, power banks, extra batteries, and a way to receive emergency alerts when electricity or internet isn't working. We've been spoiled so much from technology that we forget all these things. It's good to, you have your cell phone tells you anytime there's a warning or anything, it gives you an alert. But once we take that away, we forget about all these other ways that have been here for a long, many years. Let's move to day 2. The next morning, you wake up, the rain finally slows down, but the flooding hasn't. The road you normally use is completely underwater. The bridge down the road has been closed. Now imagine you can't leave. No trip to Walmart. Can't go to the gas station. Can't get your prescription at the pharmacy. You can't go have breakfast at the restaurant, no grocery stores. Whatever you've got in your house, that's what you've got. There is no deliveries or anything like that. This is why I always talk about keeping preps, having emergency food and water and all this stuff. You don't need no fancy survival kit that comes in a bucket or anything from Walmart. Rice, beans, canned meat, soup, vegetables, peanut butter, crackers, oatmeal, shelf-stable foods your family actually eats. The fancy ready-to-eat meals are fine and everything if you have the money for those things. You don't have to have those expensive meals. You can get the same stuff from the grocery store. You can make your own things like that. But there's another problem. Water. Flooding can contaminate wells, water systems. Never assume flood water is safe. You automatically stop, and that water is poison because you just don't know. Flood water can contaminate sewage, fuel, chemicals, bacteria, and debris becomes almost poisonous. And just because the water is coming from your faucet and looks clear doesn't automatically mean it is safe after flooding or a disaster. Pay attention to the local boil water, or don't, if you don't have any information on it, don't assume it's fine. Have bottled water, bottled stored drinking water available for emergencies. And this could be, and you're going to hear all the, plastic, this and that. Um, Many of us don't have thousands of dollars to buy stainless steel tanks or glass bottles and this and that. So we have plastic. We drink bottled water, all this stuff. We breathe in so much plastic now that drinking out of a bottle during a flood or whatever is not going to kill you. So having bottled water, having 5-gallon bottles of water stored could be what's going to save you. I would want enough drinking water stored so I wasn't immediately depending on going to the store and getting the water. It's too late by then. We're into day 3 now. You're starting, that fear and adrenaline starts to wear off. Your refrigerator hasn't had electricity. The food in it is it's starting to spoil, and you really don't want to open it up and smell that. The house is hot and humid. You don't have central air running through your house and all the moisture around. It's just making everything worse. Maybe you've got several inches of water in the basement. Maybe your yard looks like a lake. You start smelling things: mud, sewage, gasoline, rotting food. And I'm going to turn my phone off because I'm getting slammed here. There we go. Rotting food. Ugh. And sometimes people don't always think about food brings hazards with it: scrap metal, broken glass, nails, chemicals, sewage, downed power lines, animals and insects. Don't walk through floodwater just because it looks shallow. And don't let your children play in it. If you've got a generator, never operate it inside the house, garage, basement, or a porch. Anything in the closed area. Carbon monoxide can kill without you ever realizing it's even there. Keep generators outside and well away from doors, windows, and vents, according to, your manufacturer and emergency guidance. That there's a booklet that tells you all this stuff when you purchase these things. We're hitting day 4 now. Now, maybe your house has survived, but several roads did. The grocery store might be closed. The gas station may not have electricity. Delivery trucks, there is none. They can't. They're not going to try to get through to deliver you your order from Walmart. People who aren't prepared are beginning to run out of things like food, drinking water, baby supplies, pet food. Everybody forgets about your pets. Medicine, fuel, batteries. This is where preparedness starts paying off. Imagine 2 households. One has 3 days of food and almost drinking water and no drinking water stored. The other one has several weeks of normal shelf-stable food, drinking water, flashlights, batteries, sanitation supplies, and backup cooking options. They're experiencing the same flood, but there's 2 different experiencing going on with these 2 emergencies. Preparedness doesn't stop the disaster. It's going to happen. It gives you options during the disaster. Let's move on to day 5. Here's something survival videos don't talk about enough. It's not in the picture. But think about this. Everything's flooded in your area. Going to the bathroom, something that's not talked about so much. What happens if your sewer system isn't functioning? You've went in there and you go to flush it, and it doesn't go anywhere but up. What happens if your septic system is flooded? It's completely full of water. It has nowhere to go when you flush the toilet. What happens if authorities tell you do not use plumbing? You've got to have a sanitation plan. Who talks about these things? Heavy-duty trash bags, buckets, toilet paper, soap, hand sanitizer, disinfectants, disposable gloves for cleaning up those messes, so to speak, and a safe way to contain waste until proper disposal is possible. Sanitation becomes extremely important during floods because contaminated water spreads, illnesses. Clean drinking water and proper hygiene may become just as important as water and medicine and stuff like that. Day 6, the water starts going down. Finally, the water begins to starts to recede. You can see pavement again. Your yard, it's there, You see the actual green. And you think, it's over, We made it. Not necessarily. Receding water doesn't mean the danger is gone. The road may be damaged underneath. Buildings may be where you think your house could be extremely unsafe. The foundation and whatnot. And then you have electrical systems may be submerged. Gas lines may be endangered or damaged. Food, more than likely in the area, unless properly stored, and food can be contaminated. Wells may need tested and disinfected, and your house may now have major moisture and mold problems. Don't just rush back into flooded buildings just because the water isn't seen. Follow instructions from emergency officials and utility providers. If you smell gas or think there's electrical damage, get away, contact the utility services or emergency personnel. Take pictures and videos of your damage when it's safe to do so. Document everything before throwing damaged property away. If insurance or disaster assistance may be involved. Here it is, a week, 7 days. A week has passed. The sun might finally be shining, but look around. Mud everywhere. Furniture destroyed. Drywall ruined. Vehicles damaged. Roads washed out. Businesses will be closed, people displaced from their homes. And now comes one of the hardest parts, recovery. Flooding isn't just surviving the water, rising water. It's about surviving what happens afterwards. Maybe you can't live in your home. Maybe you're staying with relatives, or maybe you're in a shelter with a bunch of other people just like you. Maybe you've lost thousands of dollars worth of your belongings, and some families could spend months to get back to normal. That's why preparedness isn't only about beans and rice and flashlights and pew-pews and all that stuff. Financially preparedness matters just as much as, the rice and beans. Keep copies of important documents protected, and know what your homeowners and renters insurance actually covers. Ask those questions, and make sure everything is documented that way. A lot of people find out that, oh, your flood insurance only covers this and that and the other thing, or you don't even have flood insurance. Understand that standard homeowner insurance generally doesn't cover flood or just damages. It depends where you live also. Keep emergency fund if you're able to, and keep an inventory of photos or videos of important belonging. It's always good to have that stuff anyway. Now, we're going to go over a checklist. Now, I know there's tons more, and that's what you guys are for. Many of you guys have lived through these things, and having a preparedness checklist, be it flood, hurricane, whatever, having these is so important. Evacuation. A go bag for each person suited for that person, and it's good to update these bags during certain seasons. So if, you live in a very northern area, having shorts in a bag and t-shirt just isn't so good during a winter months and stuff. So think about that. Go bag for each person and suited for that person. Make sure everybody in the house knows where your safe area is, where everybody would go, and make sure everybody knows the different routes, your evacuation routes to get to those areas. Keep your vehicle fueled up. Again, your gas tank is empty when it's half full. Because if it's half full, you have enough to get out of the area. If it's actually empty, when you have to wait to go to the gas station, problem is you may not have enough to get out of the area. Have paper maps. Your phone may not be working. Pet carriers and leashes. Have predetermined plans for family to meet and where. Water. Store drinking water. Water containers. Method of treating water when it becomes, contaminated or whatnot. But remember, filters don't necessarily make chemical contaminated floodwater safe. Everybody talks about the little water filter straws. Those things, oh, those are wonderful, but they don't take chemical contaminations and stuff like that. Think about food, at least several days of shelf-stable food. Not having a couple bags of Happy Meals or whatnot in your back seat doesn't count. An actual manual can opener, one of those old-fashioned ones that you turn and the can opens. We're spoiled so much that electric can openers and everything else, we forget that they don't work when there is no electricity. Have backup cooking methods that can be safely used outdoors. Flashlights, headlamps, extra batteries, battery-powered emergency radio, weather radios, phone power banks, car chargers, first aid kit, prescriptions, necessary medication, basic hygiene supplies, copies of prescriptions and important medical information. Remember, I always say, keep a lot of that stuff on thumb drives and stuff. Heavy-duty garbage bags, buckets, toilet paper, soap, hand sanitizer, disinfectants, disposable gloves. Don't forget about your documents, identification, insurance information, emergency contacts, medical information, important financial records, keeping copies in a waterproof container and secured digital backups when possible. Tools and clothing, another one people forget. Work gloves, sturdy waterproof boots, rain gear, basic tools, eye protection, N95 mask for cleanup where mold and dust and debris may be present. And one thing I would never do, and passing this on, there is one mistake I want everybody watching this video to remember. Don't drive through floodwater. People look at water crossings on a road and think, oh, I've got a truck, I can make it. You don't know what's under that water. If the road is even still there, it could be washed out and that road could be, you think it's only 2-3 feet deep, and it could be 10 to 20, 30 feet deep. And you can't drive through that. The current could move your vehicle and move you off of that road. And once you're trapped, you're putting rescuers at danger on top of everything else. Turn around, find another route. Your destination isn't worth your life. The biggest lesson, here's what this 7-day scenario teaches us. A flood doesn't necessarily give you days to prepare. Once it starts raining, you can't go out and get everything situated. Sometimes you get warnings, sometimes you don't. Sometimes conditions change incredibly fast. And once the road becomes impassable, your choices disappear. That's why I believe preparedness isn't about creating options. Food gives you the options to stay at home. Stored drinking water gives you the options not to depend on the stores. A go bag gives you the option to leave quickly. Fuel gives you the transportation options. Emergency savings gives you recovery options. And having a plan means you're not trying to figure out everything while everybody else around you is panicking and going nutso. But here's my question for everybody watching. Could you make it through 7 days of a major flood? Now, there's people out there, oh, I've already done it, you know. But what have you learned from that? And what have you changed? And when was the last time you went over that plan with you and your family members and whatnot? What if you lost power? You know, what if you lost drinking water or a safe place to use the toilet, so to speak? What if every road out of your neighborhood was closed? What if you had just 10 minutes to get out? Go down into the comments and tell me what's one flood preparedness item you think most people forget. Because somebody reading your comment might realize it's something they forgot also. And what and that's what this community is about, you know, learning from each other. And you will be surprised how many people go in the comments just to read what other people are posting. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it at that. And I hope to see you guys in the comments talking about this subject. Until next time, like always, God bless.